Why all the fuss about rhetoric? Why do we have to talk about that when we're just trying to learn how to write? Well, learning about rhetoric is like having a blueprint before you build a house. The end result is actually going to make more sense if you understand what goes into it, what its purpose is. So, rhetoric. The granddaddy of rhetoric is Aristotle. Over 3,500 years ago, he came up with the term and did some intense writing and thinking about what it meant as far as human communication goes. And to this day, nobody has come up with anything that makes more sense. So the definition of rhetoric is this: using everything you know about someone to better communicate with them. It makes sense, doesn't it? Of course, we're going to do that, except when we don't. What I want you to think about is being more intentional with your understanding of that idea. It breaks down into three pretty clear parts, also correlating nicely with the three aspects of communication. The three aspects of communication are these: the speaker or writer, the listener or reader, and the message itself, either spoken or written. All communication is made up of this triangle. So, with that in mind, let's go Greek. Aristotle thought that the first component of rhetoric, ethos, was incredibly important. For the purposes of making it easier to remember, ethos is the credibility, think of the word ethics, of the speaker or writer. Why is this important? What makes somebody credible? Excellent questions I thought you'd never ask. We think of someone as credible who has either education or experience, they're truthful and caring, they're properly motivated, they're interested in their own topic, and they're especially interested in their audience's well being. That was very important to Aristotle. We think of someone as not being credible who has a lack of either education or experience, who is dishonest, or maybe uses disreputable sources. They also could have a lack of connection with their audience, and they're only motivated by their own self interest. You can see why having a strong ethos would be important, right? If we think of a writer or a speaker, which could be you, as having anything other than a strong ethos, we're less likely to pay attention to the message they're trying to send. And the tricky part is this: you have to guard your ethos very carefully. It's like a good reputation. Once you lose it, it can be very difficult, if not impossible, to get it back. Think about the times you've been in conflict with friends or family, and it stemmed from the fact that they were not trustworthy anymore. Their ethos had taken a hit. That's ethos, and it's super important in effective communication. The next part of the communication triangle has to do with the receiver, technically the listener or reader. The term Aristotle used to describe this portion of communication was pathos. Pathos has to do with the deepest held beliefs and values of the listener or reader. Well, why do I, as a speaker or writer, have to bother myself with that? Because if you don't, you will not have an audience. If you've ever had conflict with someone, possibly on the internet, possibly with a troll, you know that if someone says or writes something that is in direct opposition to what you believe in, you immediately stop giving them the time of day. This is true in any communication scenario. If someone steps on what's important to us, we discard them as a valid source of information anymore. It doesn't matter how many degrees they have or how many years of experience they boast of. We are done because they have not bothered to figure out what's important to us and show it some respect. This is essential when we think about rhetoric being defined as using everything you know about someone to better communicate with them, right? Your job as a speaker or writer is to stop focusing on yourself and what you need or how smart you are, and to instead think about what's important to your audience. What do they need? How can you give it to them? Shift your perspective away from yourself and onto them. If you step across that line and disrespect someone's beliefs or who they are as a person, you will not be able to transfer any of your information to them because they will shut you down. They are Fort Knox and no gold for you. This includes everything from sexism to racism to any ethnofoulism to ableism, ageism. Stay clear of all of the isms if you don't want to alienate a portion of your audience. It's a good practice anyway. So now you've got the ethos and the pathos corners firing. Now we come to the message itself, the word, which is what logos means in Greek. How is that a complicated thing? Don't we just talk or write and then information transfer happens? Well, that's a theory, but it doesn't always fly. You've probably picked up an instruction manual or a chemistry textbook or something specialized and thought, crap, is this English? This makes no sense. I know I have. The problem is that the writer has all kinds of credibility and is not violating your values and beliefs, but has not coded the message in a way that is accessible to you. They haven't thought enough about who their audience is and how to deliver the info in a way that makes it possible for a non expert to understand. They're possibly assuming a level of expertise that doesn't exist. This happens all too often. Your job as a speaker and writer is to be sure you understand what the skill level is of your audience so you can tailor your message to them. Here's an example. Let's say I have a friend, Yuri, who is Russian. Yuri is a renowned nuclear fission expert, and he's agreed to come meet with a group of us, and he's going to share his knowledge, and we're all going to be mind-blowingly rich once we convert that knowledge to energy generation. Woo and who? There's only one catch. Yuri speaks only Russian. Huh. So he's got great credibility. He's considering our values and beliefs, but the message is in a format we can't, or at least most of us can't, access readily. And as you know from the aforementioned textbook examples, it doesn't have to be Russian for us not to get it. All three corners of the rhetorical triangle have to be given their equal time and attention. Build your credibility. Learn about and consider the beliefs and values of your audience, and tailor your message and language to what you know about your audience. This will build a strong foundation for your writing and speaking to reflect well upon you. The next time you have a writing or speaking project, think about how you can address all three corners of the rhetorical triangle. Build your ethos, address the pathos, and strengthen the logos. Before you speak or write, think about this. Is your content credible? Are you credible? Why? Could you improve it? Who is your audience? What do you know about them? What are their beliefs and values? How can you purposefully avoid triggering negative reactions? Is your content in a format that makes sense for the audience that you have? Could it be simplified? Does it need to be more complex? What kind of examples are you using? Do they make sense based on what you know about your audience? Be credible, thoughtful, and tailor your message to your audience. That's rhetoric.